Thriving Women Talk Radio is an affiliate to the Trendsetter Mentor Group and exclusive membership for mentorship. My name is Andrea Bowenzi, and I wanted to welcome you to Thriving Women. I'm streaming live from Tucson, Arizona with my Thrive Tribe. With us today, we have Noelle Ramos, a registered representative with CoreCap Investments out of Grayson, Georgia. Sherry Thompson, a financial coach out of Chicago, Illinois. Stacy Solie, she's a menopause coach out of Palm Harbor, Florida. And Sabrina Protic, author and certified life coach out of Tampa Bay, Florida. We are all thriving women entrepreneurs tuned in from across the United States, focused on inspiring and empowering our listeners. We are streaming in over 100 countries, and our mission each week is to introduce to you, our listeners, inspiring and empowering entrepreneurs who are thriving. Thank you for tuning in to the #1 talk show for thriving women. Ladies, you guys, it's been a long week for me. I'm just curious. I've got to know, how was everybody's weekend? How was your week? It's been just a few days, I know, but anything new and
very
exciting
impactful. Oh, I had an amazing weekend, very impactful. Just, finished up conference, and it was a great conference, so I know I got to share that with a few of the ladies here. It was a great weekend. Can't complain.
Very cool. Anybody else have any highs?
I had an awesome weekend at conference, but again, I'm a big sports fan. The All-Star Game was the best All-Star Game that I have ever seen in my entire life, the NBA All-Star Game. Nice tribute to Kobe Bryant, but it was just an exciting game. So that ended my weekend on Sunday night. So my weekend was awesome.
Great.
And hello, this is Carmen Miller. Yes, I am looking forward to stripping a dining room hutch this weekend and painting it black. So yay me.
I love the DIYs. Will you be using chalk paint? What's your mode?
We have no clue. At this point, we're going to YouTube it and try to figure it out.
Awesome.
And that's kind of what we're here. We're all entrepreneurs. We all kind of do it yourself and absolutely need some mentoring along the way. So that is the purpose behind our show. And YouTube, believe it or not, can have some really good tips. So, Carmen, I'm excited to hear about that, and would love to see your pictures. Are you going to stream that live?
Oh, no. We'll see how it works first, and if it's great, okay. If not, oh, well, this never happened.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. When all else fails, remember wine. Cannot forget the wine. Oh, very exciting. It's always fun to laugh. You guys, we've got a great show for you today. Today's thriving guests are Gary Barnes. He's an author of the book, How a Beaver Saved My Life, and Gary's going to share his life strategy on how the use of visualization cured his symptoms of multiple sclerosis. And I'm excited to hear and learn a little bit more about him. And then we also have joining us back today another thriving woman, Carmen Miller, who we just heard from. She's a family law attorney from Hawaii, Florida. And last week she shared with us a little bit about why she changed her practice from criminal law to family law. We have both Gary and Carmen on with us today. In our business strategies segment, we invited back to the show our tax strategist, Deidre Pittman. She's from Tax Divas, and she's going to give us some more tax tips that can help save our business. So we're excited to have her on the show today as well. And for our new listeners, the Thrive Tribe started a Hall of Fame for thriving women to inspire and empower us. So what are the qualifications to receive this honor? The women that we induct must be game changers. They thrive to do the impossible and make a difference. So our current Hall of Famers to date are Meghan Markle. She's the Duchess of Sussex. I know many of you are familiar with her and where she stands. We had Katie Sowers. She's one of the assistant coaches for the 49ers. Excuse me. Leah Von Bitter, who is a founder and CEO of ABA. And then last week we had Allison Felix, who was a U.S. Olympian, that was talking about transitioning from an athlete to motherhood and what the expectations were for her back in her professional life. So that was really interesting and exciting induction. Sherry, you have had the honor to introduce these ladies to us. Who do you have for us today?
Well, today we have someone, this young lady's name, she's an author. Her name is Marie Kondo. And believe me, everyone, especially women with small children, but everyone can really use a little Marie in their life. So let me tell you a little about a bit about Marie. She is also known as KonMari. Her name is Marie Kondo. She's a Japanese organizing consultant. She's the founder of KonMari Media, LLC. Now, she has written 4 books on organizing and has her own Netflix show, Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. I'm sure everybody knows a little bit about tidying up. In her Netflix series, she visits various American family homes full of clutter and guides the families in tidying up their houses through her KonMari method. Now, Marie received a 2019 Primetime Emmy Award for being an outstanding host. Now, she spent 5 years as an attendant maiden at a Shinto shrine. She founded her organizing consulting business when she was only 19 years old and a sociology student at Tokyo Women's Christian University. Now, in her senior year, she wrote her capstone thesis titled, Tidying Up as Seen from the Perspective of Gender. Now, Kondo's method of organizing is known as the KonMari method and consists of gathering together all of one's belongings, one category at a time, and then keeping only those things that spark joy. In my case, that's almost everything. So she says she experienced a breakthrough in organizing one day. In her words, I was obsessed with what I could throw away. One day, I had a kind of nervous breakdown and fainted. I was unconscious for 2 hours. And when I came to, I heard a mysterious voice, like some god of tidying, telling me to look at my things more closely. Then I realized my mistake. I was only looking for things to throw out. What I should be doing is finding the things I want to keep. So identifying the things that make me happy. Like I said, I could have used some Marie in my life and still can. Andrea, do you know anything about Marie Kondo? Do you follow her?
I don't, and I wish that I did. I kind of have gone through this cleansing, I think the end of the year, the new year, that always does that for me. I always go through and what can I get rid of? But I had heard of the keep the things that spark joy, but I need to learn more about her.
Exactly.
I can't say I've heard that keep things that spark joy. So to me that was really interesting, and I do plan on looking her up on Netflix because, just like you said, I think about stuff that I need to declutter and just throw away things that I just don't feel I need anymore, and that's my thought process. If I haven't used you in a while, I'm just going to throw you out, whether you bring me joy or not.
I agree. Well, that's our Thriving Women of today.
All right, so if I was talking over somebody. So I think, Netflix has definitely become one of those tools. We were talking a little bit earlier about finding mentors and how do you add the right tools to your toolbox. One is get plugged into a group of like-minded people. It doesn't have to be women. I almost said women. Maybe it should be women. But, find that tribe, whether it's, your coworkers or just somebody from different walks of life. They have different perspectives. They can offer you different lessons, different tools that you can use to continue to grow and move forward. And I just feel like we've got a really great opportunity to learn from Marie Kondo. Sherry, I think that's just a great ad. Definitely going to be researching and learning more about her, so thank you.
Excellent.
You guys, we have had an opportunity to follow a new technology. And when I say we, I'm talking about Thriving Women, my tribe here. This new technology is called the LifeWave X39 patch. And LifeWave X39 is clinically proven to provide the body with a level of health and vitality that you have not experienced since you were in your youth. So we are, hosts of all ages, backgrounds, ethnicities, and we've invited Rachel Flanagan back on the show to share a little bit more insight on the LifeWave X39 patch results. Welcome back, Rachel. It's been great to have you back on. Our listeners wanted to know a little bit more about the founder of this technology. Would you be able to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me back on. I'm happy to be here. And hello, all my ladies. And David Schmidt, very impressive man. I had the pleasure of meeting him back at the end of the year here in Bradenton, Florida. Just a super dynamic, just a real humble man. He has been, his experience as a bioengineer, he's the founder of this technology of the X39 stem cell activation patch. This is his newest patch that he released a year ago. However, David's experience in business and product development as an inventor, it spans over a 30-year period. He's had many companies. Advanced Applications Group was one of them. And that was a research and development center that actually specialized in energy production technologies for both the military and commercial applications. And as a result of his invention with energy production, he was presented the honorary doctorate by Dr. Alexander Mariancino, I'm saying that wrong, Mariancino. Anyways, of the International Hall of Fame of Inventors. So he's been inducted to the International Hall of Fame of Inventors for his research and his inventions on this stem cell, or on this this new technology that he has with his patches. As a result of that, he's worked for General Dynamics. He's done work with the U.S. Navy and was invited to participate in the Navy's Next Generation Mini Sub program. And what that looked like was, how I understand it, is these Navy SEALs would be in these single-man submarines that they would have to go down for 30-plus hours at a time by themselves. So they needed something for energy. And because he'd already been working with the military for a number of years with some major companies, they asked him to create this first patch. So there was an intense 3 years of research into the concept of being able to naturally increase energy and stamina. And he did it with this energy patch through elevation of fat burning, utilizing phototherapy. Phototherapy is the science behind all of his patches, including this new X39. That's just like the mecca of all of his patches. So 15 years later, in many years of research, the X39 stem cell activation patch was born. So this company, LifeWave, it's like a startup with a 15-year foundation. This X39 stem cell activation patch has just it's just blowing the lid off of everything with anti-aging, pain, sleep, anything, so many different things you can think of. So David is a holder of 94 issued patents. He has 13 pending. I think he actually has more pending than that now. But yeah, with many more patents coming, and more than 70 of those patents were issued patents that are in the field of regenerative science and technology.
So I would have to say that being able to have an opportunity to meet somebody that, it sounds like a very smart guy, and you could feel completely overwhelmed. I love how you bring in the fact that he's just humble and down to earth.
He is. He was just the nicest. You would never know that he had all of this behind him. Just a genuine, super friendly, answer any question that you have as far as, anything to do with, how this phototherapy science that he's developed and patented can help so many people out there. He has a real passion for bringing this phototherapy to the world to help heal and to help, we're not supposed to say heal, treat, or, whatever, but really, I mean, our bodies are the miracles, and so when they're activated to do what they're supposed to do, our bodies do the work themselves. And it's just very, very humbling to be with such, to have been with such a man that's just such a dynamic, terrific, incredibly intelligent person that wants to help the world with a heart as big as gold.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's so great to be able to surround yourself with somebody and people like that really just want the best for each other. Can you share with our audience, in your opinion, why is this X39 patch not being shared by our primary care physicians?
Simply because they just don't know about it yet. I'm a medical rep for skilled home nursing. So I work, in the industry of bringing physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, nursing, wound, all of that sort of thing for people who are homebound. And I just in the past 4 weeks have started sharing this with some of the doctors out there that I work with, and their mind is blown, and they want to know more about it right now. Especially your osteopaths, your family physicians that are osteopaths, because they tend to lean more toward natural ways before, writing a prescription. Your naturopaths, your chiropractors, your medical massage people, your pain doctors, because these patches, especially the X39, will really enhance their patient or client outcomes that they're already working with. And in the medical industry, this is very important to physicians because the better outcomes they have for their patients, the higher reimbursements they get from insurance. So it's just simply they just don't know about it yet because it's so new.
Yeah. Interesting how that all works together. No, and I think that's completely fair. So how can our listeners get a little bit more information on the X39 patch?
So there is a YouTube channel or YouTube link called Life Wave Health. Loads of videos there. That's Life Wave Health.
Okay, Life Wave Health.
And I'm happy to give my personal information if anybody would like to reach out to me direct with questions or how to order or things of that sort. I'm happy to provide that. Do I just provide that here or?
Let's go ahead and post that in our mentor group on Facebook, and then those that can get plugged in there, they will reach out to you through that.
Sure.
I don't want to mess it all up. So just for the record, everybody, Thriving Women does not endorse or sponsor the LifeWave X39 patch, but our mission here is really just to share with our listeners life strategies that are making a difference, and we feel that this patch is a life-changing experience. So super excited and thrilled to have Rachel on to join us this week and even the last to share her experience, and look out for her post on Facebook. She's going to get you some more information on how you can reach out to her directly. So we're going to take a quick sponsor break, and when we come back, Noel Ramos and Stacy Solie are going to share their notes from our recommended reading, which is the book Option B, written by Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. We'll be right back.
Thriving Women is sponsored by Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowerment. Now, if you are a thriving entrepreneur and inspired to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, then join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a member request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are the membership for mentorship. Now back to the Thriving Women Radio.
Thank you, Sherry, for that commercial, and I just want to welcome you guys to the Thriving Women book review. So we've been discussing the last few weeks the book Option B by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. So back in 2015, Sheryl's husband, David Goldberg, he suddenly died at the age of 48. Sandberg and her 2 children were, of course, just extremely devastated, and she was certain that, their lives, were never going to find joy or true meaning again. So with option B, it offers compelling insights for just dealing with the hardships in our own lives, and it's reaching out, trying to help others who have found themselves in similar crises or even different crises. So option B, it talks about Sandberg's experience and how she's coped with the adversity, and she's partnered up, like I said earlier, with Adam Grant and a couple other social scientists, and the book just features stories of how people are recovering from personal loss, professional hardships, such as illness, injury, divorce in their life, job loss, sexual assault, and also even imprisonment. So chapter 1 we kind of discussing breathing again. So we talked about the 3 P's in chapter 1: personalization, pervasiveness, and permanence. In chapter 2, we kind of brief overviews. That was kicking the elephant out of the room. So many people don't know how to discuss when a tragedy happens. They're scared to bring it up to their friends and family. They just want to kind of keep it at bay or just not say anything, and they're just not sure how to approach, quote-unquote, that elephant in the room. And I know I have Stacy here with me, who's also been going through journaling with the book with me. Stacy, what are some of your notes for the next couple chapters? Hi, Noelle. Yes, absolutely. It's been really fascinating to go through this, and it's, as you said, like kicking the elephant out of the room. I love the way that she describes that, because oftentimes we don't even know what to say to a loved one when something happens, when they have someone pass. And so it's great that she's been able to provide that. Well, in chapter 3, really, this dives into the platform rule of friendship. And she talks about 2 different emotional responses to the pain of others: the empathy, which motivates us to help, and distress, which motivates us to avoid them, which is kind of really looking at those 2 emotions. I can completely relate to that. And then in chapter 4, she talks about self-compassion and self-confidence. And psychologist, Kristen Neff described self-compassion as offering the same kindness to others that we would give to a friend. And it allows us to respond to our own errors with concern and understanding rather than criticism and shame. And this can be so difficult. I don't know about you, but I just find that it's much easier to comfort the friend than to try to offer ourselves the same. Right. I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's self-compassion. It really comes from recognizing that we're human, and that's part of being human. And that when we can tap into recovering from hardship faster, that self-compassion really helps us to associate with greater happiness and satisfaction, and it lessens those emotional difficulties and even anxiety, which is such a big part of it. Stacy, you mentioned self-compassion. Like, too many times we don't give ourselves the self-compassion we would give towards others, and we kind of we beat ourselves up when we've done something wrong. I mean, I don't know if you're like that, but I'm completely like that, where it's just like I'm too hard on myself, and, where we would forgive someone else in a heartbeat. I think that most of us are, especially when you're an entrepreneur, or you're in your thriving career where you're out there and you have to be the leader in your business. Oftentimes we can sometimes forget about that piece, and it's a really important piece. I agree. So chapter 5, bouncing forward, the one I become will catch me. So when a traumatic experience is you have a systematic events that happen to you, it begins to shake your beliefs. It rocks your world. And when stuff like this happens, it kind of robs us of that sense of control that we feel we have in life. We no longer have the control. Our life is no longer predictable, and sometimes it just doesn't feel as meaningful as well. So, not Stacy, you're Stacy. Cheryl, she talks about When you are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So let me repeat that. When we're no longer able to change a situation, we are now challenged to change ourselves, and rightly so. Adam speaks about that half the people who experience a traumatic event report at least one positive change, compared to less than 15% who develop PTSD. So if we're not seeing the growth as possible, we're not going to find it. We have to look for it. And post-traumatic growth, it can take up to 5 different forms. So the 5 different forms it can take is finding personal strength, gaining appreciation, forming deeper relationships, discovering more meaning in life, and just looking for new possibilities, seeing that they're out there and finding them. Cheryl mentions, I am more vulnerable than I thought, but much stronger than I ever imagined. And as we're going through these events, we can all relate to that. We think we're not going to make it. We're not going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then we realize after we've gone through a traumatic event, I was a lot stronger than I thought I would be. So when we face the slings and arrows of life, we get wounded with these scars, and they stay with us, and that's okay, because that's how we become who we are. These scars is what represents us and makes us who we are as a human being. Stacy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I love that phrase, we're vulnerable and much stronger than we've ever imagined, because you don't have to wait for special occasions to feel and show gratitude in the moment. You can spend time thanking friends and family, and that can help you to overcome the sadness that's happening. I know that she talks about trauma can make us wary of others and have lasting negative effects on our ability to form relationships. And but tragedy can also motivate people to develop new and deeper relationships. So it can really form that bonding. And to quote, she says, "Is suffering causes or ceases to be suffering." Find that meaning,
Start.
Taxes. So, Deidre, thanks again for joining us. How are you today? Oh, I lost her.
Can you hear me?
Deidre, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I can barely hear you.
Oh, you
okay? How?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm doing great. How's everybody doing there?
Doing great. So I'm excited to have you on today. Last week you discussed some of the reasons why we talked about how we file our taxes, whether it's joint, single, married, single, that type of thing. Can you share with our listeners why this time, how it's important to choose the right tax preparer?
Well, actually, what I'm going to talk about today, it's really the, I call it the big three. I'm going to talk about tax fraud because I don't know if you saw my Facebook Live yesterday. I had to go on Facebook impromptu because I was so livid after meeting with a client, and she had to prepare for 10 years that perpetrated tax fraud, and she had no clue, and now the IRS is coming after her. So today, I call it, people say it's tax season, but I say it's tax fraud season. And I really want to talk about tax fraud today because it's so important because, first of all, people don't know what tax fraud is. They think that little white lie, that's tax fraud. So I'm going to give you three of the big ones, the three big ones that I have seen over and over again, and what you can do to actually avoid those. So first of all, tax fraud, it occurs when a person willfully attempts to evade the tax code. In other words, they lie. Okay? Now, we all make mistakes. I'm the tax diva. Been doing this for 35 years. Have I ever made a mistake? Of course I have. But not a willful mistake, but even making a mistake, it's considered negligence, and guess what? The IRS will come after you for negligence too. Okay? So what I want to tell you today is what not to do on your tax return.
Yes.
And I hope you guys are taking notes, okay?
We are.
Okay, good. Number one, not reporting all of your income. Okay, that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
You must report all of your income that you made for that tax year, be it your W-2 income, 1099 miscellaneous income, bank account interest income, investment income. I'm trying to think of all the incomes. Rental income, gambling winnings, any income, whether you get a W-2 1099 or whether somebody just pays you cash. You must report all of your income that you made for the year. Now, there's a chance that the IRS won't know maybe about, your little extra earnings you decided not to include. But if you're caught underreporting your income, there are some really big penalties, some hefty penalties involved in that. So you want to make sure that you, number one, report all of your income. Okay? Now, I am the business tax strategist. So one of the things clients try to do, they want to exaggerate their business expenses. And what do I mean by that? They want to make their business expenses more than what they really are. And that is another form of tax fraud. Example, okay, so you drive your car. Say you're a realtor. I'll use a realtor because realtors really do use their cars a lot. So say you're a realtor, but you have one car. Come on now, let's keep it real. You're not doing real estate 24/7, okay? So we can't just go ahead and deduct, your total expenses for your automobile or your total mileage 100%, because that's just not realistic. You've used your car for other things. Also, people want to report personal expenses as business expenses, like the cell phone, for instance. Everyday clothes. A lot of people say, well, I wear these, I'll use I buy St. John suits. Those are expensive knit suits, right? And, I'm a business consultant. Too bad. You can wear St. John, anywhere else. So guess what? The IRS rule on clothing is if you can wear it outside of your business,
it's not a tax write-off.
Oh.
Okay? Yeah, it's no, and see, that's what I'm saying. See, a lot of people get hemmed up into that. So guess what I do? I have so many blinged up Tax Divas T-shirts. It's not even funny. And guess what? I can write them off. Okay. Now, can you guys believe it or not that being a business owner, there's significant tax benefits available to us, but that doesn't mean that we can just write off anything. Okay, that's the thing. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going into business, I'll just be able to write off anything. But if you use an expense for personal and business, the proper thing to do is to take that percentage of use. Like, for instance, my cell phone. Seriously, I do use my cell phone for about 75% of business. So I don't write off the total cell phone bill for the year. I write off 75% of it, okay? Know your percentages. What are you using your cell phone for? What are you using, your car for? So what did I say? Number one was not reporting all of your income. Number two, exaggerating business expenses. And this one, I know you're not going to believe, but do you know that there are actually people who do not file tax returns at all?
Yep.
Yeah. I had one person, I'm not kidding, come to me. The man had not filed in 8 years. I said, honey, have you been living under a rock? What is the problem? So, what happens if you don't file? That is considered a criminal offense, okay? So what you want to do is, if you know you don't have your tax documents together by April the 15th, you can file an extension. It's just that simple. Filing an extension lets the IRS know, hey, I'm here, IRS, and I plan to file. I may not have it together by April the 15th, but I'm going to file this tax return to you, within the next 6 months. So that's what you want to do. If you're not ready to file by April the 15th, then make sure that you file an extension for your tax return. Now, I told you the problem. Now I'm going to tell you how to avoid the problem. First of all, keep good records. If you keep detailed records, that way you know exactly what to claim. Okay? And for those of us that are in business, we really got to do better. And I always suggest to my clients that they use something like QuickBooks to track their income and expenses. And it makes it great for me and my clients have that because it makes my life easy. Also, follow the rules. If you do decide to do your own tax return, you need to make sure that you fully understand the rules for certain credits or deductions before claiming them. You can go to the IRS website. I mean, there is a library of information for you. And you can use the IRS publications for help. Now, I love Google, but this is not the honey, please don't Google how to do your taxes, okay? You don't have to. And then, for you do-it-yourselfers, I always say this, DIY means do-it-yourself, right? Well, I say DIY can DIY. Doing it yourself can do you in, honey. So
good one.
You want to work with a qualified tax professional, maybe somebody like Tax Divas, because, see, the tax laws nowadays are really complicated. And you know what? You don't know what you don't know.
True.
Okay? You don't know what you don't know. And tax software only takes you as far as you know. So the best thing to do is get someone qualified that knows what they're doing, and that way you can, hopefully sleep at night knowing your tax return was filed legally, ethically, and compliantly. So we got.
I appreciate that because I did catch you yesterday on Facebook Live, and we all know people that are trying to just get around it, skirt around the system, and I really appreciated how honest you were, and I think it was even like in a thread that you were exchanging communication with somebody else, how you turn away business because they don't want to follow the rules and they don't want to do it ethically. And I think that's one of the most important things, for me as an advisor, as a coach, and I'm independent. And I think many of us entrepreneurs are out there, and we kind of get in this, I don't want to say it's a rut, but when you're just starting out, you're excited about your business, and you're excited about growing your clientele, and you will just take on anybody and everybody just so you can have a book of business. But you guys, let me tell you, one of the best things about being self-employed and being an independent entrepreneur is I get to choose who I work with. And that says so much about you as a business owner, Deidre, that you don't want to have anything to do with those, types of people, those interactions. So, high five, sister. I was
Thank you.
very, and it's tough, because, like I said, it's money. That's money that could be coming into your household to help raise your children or whatever your goals are. And it's real disappointing, for me when I meet somebody that's like, oh, yeah, this isn't going to work. Sorry. Good luck. But
yeah.
Deidre, if there are people wanting to know more and know how to follow you, what's the best way that they can reach you and follow along throughout the day?
Well, as you know, I'm on Facebook. So my first name, Deidre, D-E-I-D-R-A, and my last name, Pittman, P-I-T-T-M-A-N. And to schedule a consultation with me or to, ask me some tax questions, it's best to email me. Best to use my website, www.taxdeiz, as in victory, as.com. So that's the best way to get in touch with me. And thank you for watching my live.
No, I loved it. It was awesome. So keep it up. I'm proud to know you. And we will get this information shared out not only on our Facebook group, but I'll share it on my page too. So again, Deidre Pittman with Tax Divas. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, we are going to take a quick sponsor break, and when we return, we will introduce our Thriving Women guest. We'll be right back.
Thriving Women is sponsored by Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. Now, TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowerment. If you are a thriving entrepreneur and aspire to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, then join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a member request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are the membership for mentorship. Now back to the Thriving Women Radio.
Awesome, thank you. And for those of you that have just tuned in to Thriving Women, we've invited back to the show Carmen Miller. She's the CEO of Carmen Miller Family Law, and she practices in Holiday, Florida. We had her on last week, and I was so inspired why she kind of changed gears on herself. She started out in the criminal law space, and she changed it to family law. Carmen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day again today to join us. Would you mind just sharing, why did you make that change? I just want to know a little bit more, and I know that many also do.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Yes, my first job out of law school was as an assistant public defender over in Tampa. And, and I appreciate, Deidre, and your point earlier about, the ability of, being a solo practitioner or having your own business, you get to decide which clients you have and which ones you don't. And, of course, as an assistant public defender, I had no choice. So I had to represent people who were Nazis, people who would call me the N-word, people who I kind of met and just thought, oh, you are a disgusting, evil person. However, you have constitutional rights, and I'm still going to stick up for you, for that. But as my tenure, during my tenure as a public defender, I was a juvenile division chief a couple of times, actually, while I was at that office. And what really bothered me about of course I enjoyed the job itself, but what bothered me was how did people even get to the system? And, being an adult, I can talk to, with adult clients, I could talk to those people, and when I would speak with them, they would, kind of, regale me with their tales of their childhoods, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. And being on the outside looking in, you can kind of see, yeah, I see where things went totally wrong for you, okay? And when I was a juvenile division chief, it started making me think, well, what can I do at this level to make sure that these children do not go to the adult system? So when I first became a solo practitioner, of course I had my criminal clients, but it made me just think about why are you here? What can be done now for you, and what can be done for the next generation so that they're not in this situation? And the thing about family law is a lot of trauma to children, which leads to an eventual, and I hate to say it, I'm not going to say that it's an automatic path to the criminal system, but it's a pretty sure one, okay? But what trauma does this child go through if they have a parent or some other custodial parent who goes to jail, or that child is witnessing domestic violence on a daily basis, or that child has to deal with, let's say, a parent with a mental illness or that's not being treated, things like that. And what can I do to not only help the parents if they want to divorce or separate or whatnot, but make sure that there is a parenting plan in place that will help this child not, start getting on that one path that puts this child eventually in some sort of, penal institution. So that's what started getting me thinking about, what can I do? And how can I try to, steer this family in a different direction? And speaking with the authors of the book, trauma, yeah, it can do good for people, get some steering, I've experienced this, I don't want anyone else to do this, I'm going to do what I can to turn these, lemons into lemonade. The flip side, though, is what do I do with the people who are in that trauma issue right now, and to try to keep them from having to live in that mess. So that's what really got me to thinking there's another way to look at this puzzle.
Yeah, and I think that's just so incredible. Having gone through divorce myself, and it's recent. It's not yesterday, but it's been, it's a journey. And there's 3 children involved, and at the end of the day, really the goal is to make a better, safer place for my children, and so they don't end up in that kind of situation. We don't have kids to throw them out into the world, and it's not necessarily a sink or swim type situation. I understand that some people don't have things available, resources available to them, and their kids they struggle through it. And as Noelle was talking about earlier, these things shape us and who we are and who we've become. The stories of our past don't define us, but our kids don't necessarily have that wisdom yet. So they need the guidance, the coaching, and the adults to be looking out for them, even if that's not your biological child. I think that's huge, and I love it. I know Sabrina had a question for you. I'm sorry, Sabrina, I kind of jumped in there.
Sure.
Oh, it's sounding so good. I almost don't want to interrupt. How are you today, Carmen?
Hello.
Hey, Carmen. So, I'm sitting here thinking when you were talking about trauma and children going through trauma, divorce is one of those things. And I had no idea how my children were going to be impacted by my decision to divorce from their father. You had kind of shared a report with us about how divorce affects children. Can you share your thoughts on that with us?
Yes, and that really involved, there's a study called Adverse Childhood Experiences. And essentially what it is it's basically like a test or a rubric where a person is assigned a point for every, trauma that they received before the age of 18. And the points, of course, include things like, physical abuse, emotional neglect. But it also includes sort of the household issues, like being a witness of domestic violence towards, one parent on another, or having mental illness around. And really significant is the sudden loss or separation of a parental figure, whether it's divorce or maybe it's incarceration, and sometimes, unfortunately, death. And what does that do to a child for having, to hear that person, see that person, maybe daily or whatever, maybe it's a grandparent, for Christmases and holidays and whatnot, but to have that sudden just separation. And what does that do to a child? And what I tell my clients, especially ones who want a divorce, and if they have children, is kind of consider thinking about mental health counseling on what it means to be divorced. Do they blame themselves that the divorce occurred? Mm-hmm. Is it okay to miss mom or miss dad? Is mom going to be mad if child wants to text or call dad? Those kinds of things are very typical of a child when they, are in this, essentially thrown into this situation, because clearly the child isn't the one who's making the parents, divorce or even separate. So these kids are kind of walking around with sometimes guilt or shame when it's really not their fault. And unfortunately, we all, even as adults, we understand there are situations where it's not your fault, but it is your problem. So divorce and separation, things like that, they're not the child's fault, but they're going to have to live through this. And, of course, you want your children to come out as healthy as possible and not have the, well, my dad's gone, I'm looking for a father figure, there's a gang across the street. You don't want that to happen to your child. Or your daughter, for example, is more susceptible to a human trafficker because mom's not in the house to give her the proper guidance to, know when to say no or know who to hang out with, who not to hang out with. And what I experienced fairly often as a public defender was that a lot of these parents, maybe it's because of their age when they had the children and their maturity level, but maybe not, but these children are being raised by grandparents who, they grew up in a different time, so they're not really, technologically savvy. They're not really clear on the influences, and especially negative ones, that children are receiving now and being in school. Growing up as a child 20 years ago is very different than it is now, with all the information that comes at you on your cell phone and whatnot. And even deciding should the child even have a cell phone? Think about that. Right. That would get rid of a lot of problems for certain children. And who's going to teach the child how to handle that cell phone responsibly so that maybe they're not, 8 years old and looking at pornography or on the cell phone at 2 o'clock in the morning playing a game. There's lots of facets that are, these children face today that they didn't face even 10 years ago at this point. But just to go back to your question, the divorce, it impacts children, and it impacts them at a time in their lives when their brains aren't even fully functioning and fully formed yet. So getting them counseling to ensure that they're not blaming themselves and having that guilt, ride with them, or not blaming one parent over the other or taking sides. There's so many issues that are going on here. And also to ensure that both parents, as long as it's healthy, have access to the child, because you don't want to put the child in the position where they're picking one parent or the other, or they think that, dad's going to get mad if, the child talks to mom, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and I think
thank you so much for that. Go ahead, Andrea. I just found it to be very interesting having been in that situation before, so thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, and I think, we need more time.
I know.
add more time.
It's a very big topic.
It's very, there's a lot to it, and I love how you came out and said, get them some mental health counseling. I think that's something as a parent, I'm a little cautious just because I don't want to be like, okay, we're going to go talk to this lady or, this man, and how do you introduce that? So we will have more discussions on this as Carmen is available to continue with us. It's so important. I feel there's so many people that are going through these life changes, and how do you be the best parent possible, especially in this particular time where technology is it's very scary. So, Carmen, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to stay connected, and would love to have you back on.
Sure.
Okay, terrific. So you guys, Sabrina is going to introduce to our Thriving Women show our next guest, who is a friend and fellow author, Gary Barnes. He's the author of a book, How a Beaver Saved My Life.
Well, yes, welcome Gary Barnes to the Thriving Women show. How are you, sir?
I am doing extremely well, and it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much. Can you share with us why you were so inspired to write this book, How a Beaver Saved My Life? And why a beaver, Gary?
Well, I am one of those reluctant authors. I am a speaker that has had to become an author, and I actually had the book cover designed for 2 years before I ever wrote the book. And I was pushed into it a little bit, and I never really even thought that anyone would want to hear the story. And the title of the book is actually the second rendition. The first title was Into the Night, The Road from Adversity to Triumph. And I, number one, didn't realize how many songs, how many romance novels had the title Into the Night. And so I got really, pushed into a very elongated community. And but I was speaking, and a woman had invested in the book, and about 3 weeks later, I got this big box, and inside of it was a 3.5-foot stuffed beaver. And my coach at the time got so excited, he said, we're going to change the title of the book, How a Beaver Saved My Life. And it came out of the visualization of, in 1988, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And my prognosis was I would be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. Last Thanksgiving was my 31-year anniversary. And so I was looking for a visualization, and the beaver is a part of that story.
Oh, my word. So you got this beaver, and so How Beaver Saved My Life. So we get that visual picture. But tell us some of the struggles that you overcame with to create and publish your personal journey. I'm sure there's a story there.
Part of the struggle was within myself. Who would want to read the story? In school, I played sports, and that got me through school. I wasn't a big reader. And then with the original process, the original episode of the MS in '88, I lost all feelings from the neck down. I lost the ability to write. I lost the ability to walk if I couldn't see my feet. And I never learned how to type in college or in school. And so I had my 2 fingers that I was hunt and peck, and I kept making excuses why I wasn't really an author. And so finally, Dragon, Professionally Speaking, had come out. It wasn't as good as it is today. I really love it today. But it allowed me to speak my book. And when I finally was challenged to do it, I got so mad, I wrote it in 6 days. And I spent no more than about 2.5 hours a day writing it. But it was just pouring out of me. And so capturing the book, I didn't want it to be a multiple sclerosis book, an MS book. I wanted it to be an adversity book. And so I wrote it in the style at the end of each chapter there are challenges, there's action steps, so it could be used for personal, business, financial, health. In any adversity, I wanted it to be a guideline of what I did to move through that at a time when everybody around me, all the medical professionals, said, just go home, enjoy your family, because you're not going to be here very long.
Oh, my. So why don't we kind of let Noelle come in a little bit on this? I think she may even have some comments about your journey.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Sabrina. Man, I can't imagine. That was a truly amazing story. Sorry, I got caught off guard. So, sorry, I just want to know. I mean,
his story is so phenomenal.
I know. So, so how your health? You said your health is much better now. How can we find? You said you used the visualization technique to put your MS in submission. So can you share with our listeners, where did you learn this, and has this worked for others that you've actually mentored?
Absolutely. One of the things that I knew about was Norman Cousins had put himself into remission with his situation with laugh therapy. He loved the Three Stooges. We know endorphins are generated that way. I knew about the old video game Pac-Man, where they used that image of the Pac-Man image of eating up bad cancer cells for cancer patients. And the situation with multiple sclerosis is the covering around our nerves, for some reason, it's called the myelin sheath, dissolves, and the nerves will touch like electric wires and short out. And that causes a lesion and a scabbing and a blockage of whatever signal that nerve was taking the message to whatever part of the body. And so I'm laying in bed one night, and I'm going, okay, what could I visualize? What could I do? And realizing that I was in a situation that I didn't have time. I think somebody on the show today talked about the little things that get in the way that we are not expecting. And so I was right in the middle of my financial planning career. I owned one of the largest financial planning firms in the country. I didn't have time for this, and I'm going, okay, what can I do? And so I'm laying there, and an image of a beaver shows up. And my animal image forever has been an eagle. If you're in my office where I am right now, there's eagles everywhere. But I'm going, a rodent. What is a rodent in my imagination? During here, he came and turned around and took his tail and started patching up the myelin sheath. And as you can tell, I can be a little creative. And I just said, well, it might be okay. And then the next night came back. The next night came back. And I'm the kind of guy that if one beaver is good, more is better. Expanded the visualization to where I had workmen, I had foremen, I had payroll offices. I had a full spectrum of beavers working around the clock, 24/7, 365, and all they were doing was patching up on my myelin sheath. But then I started feeling guilty because I was receiving and not giving, and I expanded the visualization again to where I created parks, schools, shopping centers. And for me, I spent 2 to 2.5 hours a night in that visualization to where they were, and again, I was still numb. I had lost still all of the feeling from the neck down while I did this.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is so phenomenal, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah, you certainly have a great story, and I think there's so many people that could stand to learn more from you and about you. I wanted to ask you really quickly, how has writing this book impacted your life? You mentioned you had different careers throughout the way. How did this change things for you?
You know, I always thought that being an international speaker, doing TEDx, well, actually, the TEDx came from doing this book. But once I had the change in the title got picked up by PBS. I did 4 shows from that. It went to all the major networks all over the country. TEDx read the story, called me to do TEDx. It is a door opener. One of the things I recommend for any business, any person, is to write a book. And not a war and peace type of book. A book that's really lovingly called airplane books, that 130, 150-page book that people can actually read, get through, get something of substance from that reading. But people want small today, and that is such a credibility and a celebrity separation just by being an author, and it surprised me because people would say, "Oh, I've never met a real life author before." I go, I wrote it, I published it, and I sell it. It's like, what makes that elevated connection? But there is just something about it in the community, and you become safe for interviews with meeting planners or whatever you're wanting to do with it. But it's another way of touching more people as well, that people that I will never meet, and it's a way of giving back.
Yeah, and I think that's key. Giving back and pouring back into the community, because as you mentioned, as you're starting with your visualization, you at the point in the beginning were just a taker, and how can you give back? And I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for you to do that and lean in. Are you familiar with our author blog on the TMG Facebook page?
Yes, I am. I'm one of the bloggers in the first group.
Excellent. Good. So I brought that up on purpose because, we've got listeners that they're involved, they're on the mentor group Facebook page. You guys check that blog out so you can hear more of Gary's story and follow along. It's certainly been fun. And Gary, I wish we had more time. I'm going to say it again. We just need more time. So I would love to have you back on in the future if you would be open to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Terrific. You guys, Gary Barnes is the author, How a Beaver Saved My Life. Very exciting to have him on to share his story. We all have different journeys, different things that we go through, and have the opportunity to share and pay it forward and shed the light to others on how do you move through this. So thank you again, Gary, for joining us today. I'm sorry we ran out of time, but like I said, I would love to have you back to learn a little bit more about you and your journey and what's coming next for you down the pipe.
Cool. It'd be my pleasure.
Okay, terrific. All right, guys, just wanted to wrap up. I wanted to thank our guests. We had Rachel Flanagan on. She shared with us early on the benefits of the LifeWave X39 patch. Wanted to thank each of our Thrive Tribe members, Noel Ramos, Sabrina Protic, Sherry Thompson, and Stacy Solie. And also wanted to thank Carmen for joining us, and Deidre. Certainly some really great gold nuggets there of information, and next week we're going to introduce more thriving men and women. Thanks so much for taking the journey with us and listening to Thrive Women Talk Radio, powered by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, a membership for mentorship. Again, I would love to invite you to follow each of us on Facebook or Instagram. Also, if you're interested in joining the Trendsetter Mentor Group or being a guest on our Thriving Women show, you may email that request to our producer, Daryl Johnson, and his email address is n@yahoo.com. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we believe that you will continue to thrive and not just survive. You guys have a great day, and we will see you all next time. Bye now.